नमस्कार अभिषेक सर।
नमस्कार मैम, नमस्कार। कैसे हैं?
नमस्कार सर।
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार। कैसे हैं?
बस बढ़िया सर। हैप्पी टू हियर यू।
सर एक बार स्क्रीन शेयर करके ट्राई कर लो शुरू करने के
श्योर
लिए।
श्योर।
Sir, screen is visible,
Yes, sir. Screen is visible.
and please let me know whether it is moving or not.
It's moving, sir. It's second slide and the third one.
Okay, thank
Listen to
you.
everyone. Yes,
Sir,
contents.
but in not in presentation mode, no, madam.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
is
in
not in
presentation.
presentation mode. Okay, let me do that. Now it is okay.
Yeah.
So can we start the session, sir?
Yeah,
Abhishek, sir?
sure, madam, sure. I have unshared now.
So I welcome expert of the session in this 5-day, 1 week FDP, ATAL FDP on design thinking. This is the last day and the second technical session. And our expert of the session is Dr. Abhishek Acharya. Is working as assistant professor at NIT Surat. Sir did PhD from IIT Roorkee in physics and modeling of nanoscale devices, MTech from NITTTR Chandigarh, and BTech from University of Rajasthan. His research interests include device circuit interaction in nanoscale transistor, 2D material for beyond CMOS devices and circuit wide bandgap semiconductor-based devices. He is working on two sponsored research projects. Abhishek sir have back-to-back many publication in IEEE transaction and organized many FDPs. I welcome you, sir, and I request you to share your wisdom with us.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me in this session. So I hope most of the participants are continuing this last 5-day FDP program, and you have learned a lot during those last 5 days. So my talk will be little bit different than what you have gone through in last 5 days. So I would like to have some sort of interaction during my session. So you are free to interrupt me at any point of time. So let me share my screen.
Sure, sir. It is requested to all the participants, please switch off your videos. Yes, Miss Preeti Solanki, please switch off your videos.
Just give me a moment. Yeah, so good morning. Still, it is not 12 o'clock, so that is why I am saying good morning to everyone. So the talk of the day is listen everyone, follow no one, and which is an ancient Indian concept for future of design thinking. So I'll try to correlate the concept of listen everyone and follow no one to the concept of future design thinking problems. Rather, I should say that by adopting this kind of motto, I mean listen everyone and follow no one, you can actually solve so many design thinking related problems. So these are the contents of my talk. So first I'll discuss what is the motivation of this talk, then what I exactly mean by follow no one, what is learn from everyone, what is scientific temper, then that will be a time for a cup of tea. Then I'll come to the Indian culture and heritage and some lessons from our ancient Indian history. Then I'll be discussing about those concepts in the context of design thinking. And at the end, I'll discuss a little bit about inexperienced teachers' perspective with some of the references. So let me start from the first slide itself, that is follow no one, listen to everyone. So what I mean by this follow no one and listen to everyone. So this is, very ancient concept of Indian You will find some sort of detail regarding this follow no one and listen to everyone in our Vedas and Upanishads. So I'll come to those slokas later on, but let me define what is the motto, because this follow no one and listen to everyone is basically a motto. So what is motto? Motto is nothing. It is a simple statement adopted as a guide to one's conduct. So it is, whenever you have some complicated idea, get lost in a space, motto can help you to remember what's really important in an instant. So follow no one, but learn to everyone. And the last point here I'm also mentioning, acknowledge it too. So this is recently added by Professor S. Karmalkar in his recent talk, that follow no one, learn from everyone, but acknowledge it too. Okay, so the last phrase, acknowledge it too, is basically added by Professor S. Karmalkar of IIT Madras, and I have taken the slide from his presentation only. So what I mean to say is that this follow no one, listen to everyone, and acknowledge it too is basically a motto. So this whole concept was basically presented in context to the design. Okay, so whenever some researcher is entering in the word of any scholar is entering in the word of say research, so what he has to do initially, he has to refer some literature. So that is what we are saying, that listen to everyone or learn from everyone. So you will go through the research papers of the researchers who have already done work in that particular area. So you will be learning from their papers. Then the next point in this context is follow no one. Okay, so why I am saying this follow no one? If you will start following those researchers, then you will not be able to get good outcome out of that. I mean, some sort of originality will be missing in that kind of research if you blindly start following those previous researchers. And the last but not the least is acknowledgement. Okay, whenever you are referring some paper, say, so we must acknowledge the author of that particular paper. And it is not limited to the research only. Okay, suppose you are learning, or suppose I am learning something from you, then I must acknowledge you. And for example, this slide I have taken from some other source, so I must acknowledge from where I have taken this particular slide. So acknowledgement is very necessary because it shows your integrity towards integrity, or basically it shows the moral of your character. So if you combine all these three things, I mean, follow no one, learn from everyone, and acknowledgement, then you will get this full potential in your life. Okay, now let us take an example. Suppose you are following no one, and you are listening to everyone, but at the same time you are not acknowledging that person. It means you are losing your integrity, you are losing your moral at that particular time. So full potential in life is only explored if you combine all these three things together. So let us have a look at this Maslow hierarchy. This is popularly known as Maslow's hierarchy. So in the very first stage, it is physiological need, where you will be discussing about the food, water related problems and the basic need of every individual. Okay, then you will have safety need. Of course, in society, everybody wants to remain secure. So that is the second stage. Then the third stage is belongingness and love to love needs. Okay, so in this segment you will intimate relationship with your friends. Then the fourth stage comes, which is esteemed needs, and at the end you will get the stage which is known as self-actualization. So this self-actualization state is referred as moksha or nirvana in our scriptures. Okay, so this particular state where you are attaining this self-actualization or self-transcendence, so in this particular state you will be free from the desires. Okay, that is very important to note. If you are going to attain this particular state, it means you are free from the desires, you are free from the wants. And that is where the difference between Western and Indian concept came into the picture. So I have shown two images over here. So on the right hand side of the slide, I am showing image of a superhero, and on the left hand side I am showing the image of Mahavira, basically Lord Hanumana in our Lord Hanumana, which is a great mythological character. So here, if you look at the image of superhero, so what image comes in your mind whenever you call somebody superhero. So superhero is a man according to Western culture, which who can destroy anything, who can do anything. Okay, but nobody can kill this superhero, but he can kill everyone. Okay, so this is what the concept from the Western philosophy. But if you look at the concept from Indian philosophy, so we are saying Mahavira. So Mahavira is still a man who cannot be destroyed by anyone, but he is not having aim to destroy anyone. And this is where the difference is. Okay, the superhero has certain desires. He is not free from the desire, but the Mahavira is the person who is free from the desire. He always cares about the others. So whenever I'll be talking about the self-actualization state, or the state of nirvana, that is at the top of this triangle. So that means one should be free from desire, and he should be careful about the others, and not only the careful about himself or herself. So that is the basic difference. Now, why have I have quoted these three images together? Because this concept was given by Maslow. Okay, and Maslow at that time, and I guess he was not aware of the Indian philosophy fully. So that is why he told that this concept was first time given by him. Whereas the concept of moksha and nirvana is already existing in our scripture since the inception. So this is the basic difference between Indian and Western concept. Now, let us come to the point. Follow no one, listen to everyone, and acknowledge it too. So I'll discuss only first two tenets over here. I mean, follow no one and listen to everyone. I'll not be discussing much about the acknowledgement, because this is obvious that whenever you are taking some part from anywhere, you should acknowledge that. Now, there are certain restrictions under which these concepts are applicable or these concepts are not applicable. It is not like that follow no one is always applicable. For example, you are moving or suppose you are driving a car and you are not following the driving rules during the riding. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you are not it means that you are not allowed to basically disobey those rules. Okay, so there are certain restrictions when I am saying that follow no one. So what it does not imply. So the first part is disagree with others all the time. Okay, so when I'm saying follow no one, it doesn't mean that you should be disagree with the others all the time. Now, for example, we all are abide by the constitutions, and it is not necessary for you that you should always disagree with the constitution. Okay. Secondly, disobey authority all the time. It should not be like that you will be disobeying your higher authorities all the time. Okay, it is seen in the normal human behavior that he generally disobey the authority. Okay, but it should not be considered under this umbrella. I mean, follow no one. Okay, what is the meaning of follow no one, that I'll discuss later on. But the restriction of the follow no one I am discussing over here. So the third point which is here is disregard the keep left rule while driving, as I have discussed right now, that you should obey the driving rules while riding on the roads. Okay, don't follow any methodology or guideline. And the last, which is very important, that is imitation has no place in learning. Okay, this is very important. Now you might be asking me this question, that a kid always learn by imitating someone. Okay, then why I am saying that follow no one should be an important tenet? This is because whenever you imitate someone, of course, imitation is the initial stage of learning, but it should not be kept long, forever. Imitation is the first step for learning, but it should not be kept forever. Ultimately, you have to develop your own style. Okay, ultimately you have to groom out. Okay, so that is most important. So here, one confusion always comes into the mind, that a kid always learn by imitating. So why I am saying imitation has no place in learning. And the same is the case for the new scholars, new research scholars. So whenever they start, referring some papers, normally what they want to do, they try to follow those researchers only. But at the end, if they are not able to develop their own strategy, or they are not able to develop their own thought process, that research will not at all going to help them. So that is why the follow no one should be taken into that context. And of course, you will imitate or you will mimic somebody, at the initial stage of learning, but it should not be forever. Similarly, it is said in the Gita that Shraddhavan labdhe jnanam. Okay, the meaning is that the person who has Shraddha means devotion, will only get the knowledge. Okay, so if you are not having devotion from somebody, you will not be able to get the knowledge out of that. Okay, that is why I told you that acknowledgement is very, very important in one's life. Okay, if you want to get full potential in life, then you must acknowledge something. Without acknowledgement, nothing. I mean, you will not be able to achieve the self-actualization state or the self-transcendence state. So, Shraddhavan labdhe jnanam. We must acknowledge always. Now, learn from everyone. Again, some restriction I'll discuss over here does not mean a cut and paste approach. So, as I told you that whenever researchers, whenever any scholar enters in the research domain, he generally refers so many papers of the previous researchers, and he start writing literature reviews out of paper. So, what is my suggestion or what is my observation, that we should not follow this approach of only cut, copy, and paste. You have taken some content from X paper, you have taken some content from Y paper, and then you club together. So here I would like to narrate this story of this zoology professor. So what happens in this story? There was a zoology professor along with his 4 or 5 research scholars. So this professor was very, tyrant towards his scholars. So one day, scholars made a plan to stump the, zoology professor. So what they did, before coming to their plan, let me tell you what this zoology professor used to, teach his or her students. So what kind of studies done in the zoology. Normally he used to come with some of the bugs, I mean some of the insect, of course dead insect, and he used to teach the students by showing their legs and their bodies, different concept of animal, the anatomy of those insect. He used to teach his or her students. But one day, the professor was very tyrant, so his students were not very happy with him, and they basically made a plan to stump the professor. So what they did, when professor was not there in his cabin, so what the student did, they collected different parts of different insects or different bugs. So let us suppose they have taken body from one insect, they have taken legs from the one insect, or some other part from the other insect, and they clubbed all those parts together. But what happened when they clubbed all those parts together? New structure was formulated. Of course, all those insects were dead. Okay, so they formulated a new structure by using all those body parts of different insects. Now, when this professor came to his office, so student, eventually asked his professor that, sir, can you tell us what is this animal, or what kind of animal is this? So this zoology professor, got their strategy that they want to stump him. So he immediately answered that this is not a bug, this is humbug. Okay, you know what is the meaning of humbug? Humbug means false talk. Okay, so the professor replied that this is not a bug, this is basically humbug. So then students realized that what actually they did. So why I have narrated this story, I just wanted to tell you that learning from everyone is not a cut copy paste approach. It is basically organic integration. So it should not be like that you are taking some material from X, some material from Y, and then you are clubbing all those materials together. Okay, so one should be broad minded and should not feel insecure in learning from others. That is very important. So the same thing was happening with the students. They were feeling insecure with the zoology professor. So that is why they thought this plan. So learning from everyone doesn't mean that one should follow cut and paste approach. Over the time, you have to develop your own style. And at the end, I would like to say that whenever you are, learning from someone or you are listening from someone, then we must acknowledge to him. Okay, so never claim something which is not yours. This is very important integrity pact in the research domain, even in your uh, daily life. If you have learned from something, then we must acknowledge that. Similarly, if in the research domain, this term is very popular. I mean, plagiarism. So, what is the meaning of plagiarism? When you copy, much content from the others. So, these kind of practices should not be followed in the process of design thinking, because otherwise you will not be able to come up with the novel idea. So that is why the concept of follow no one, learn from everyone is very important from the design thinking perspective. I'll try to correlate the same with some examples in my subsequent slides, but learn from everyone doesn't mean that you will start following that particular. Ultimately, you have to develop your own style of teaching. So this is a very important aspect. Now, let us have some brainstorming session. So let me give you some of the songs over here. You can see here that I have given you 4 songs. So the first one is Jab Dil Hi Toot Gaya. The second one is Gum Diye Mustaqil. The third one is Dil Jalta Hai To Jalne De. And the last one is Kisi Ki Muskurahaton Pe Ho. So I would like to play these songs one by one, and maybe for 10 or 20 seconds. So my question to you is that try to identify that who is the singer, or how many songs have been sung by the same singer. So this is what you have to identify. So let me play this first song, that is Jab Dil Hi Toot Gaya. So it will take some time. Please bear with me. So is it audible?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir, the song is not audible.
No, no, it is not audible.
I guess it should be audible because I have. Okay, so this was the first song, Jab Dil Hi Toot Gaya. The second song is Gum Diye Mustaqil. So I'll also suggest you to mesmerize those songs. Some of you might have come across these songs in your life. So the second song I am playing, that is Gum Diye Mustaqil. So let us enjoy this song for 10 to 20 seconds. Then I'll sum up why I'm playing these songs.
The songs are not audible actually.
The songs are not playing for you.
No.
Is it the case for everyone, or
Yes,
somebody?
sir. Not audible.
Okay, no problem. So I'll request you to go through those songs and try to mesmerize those songs at your own. So my question to you is that what I mean, how many singers are basically used in this particular 4 songs? Okay, so if you look at the first song, that is uh, Jab Dil Hi Toot Gaya. The second
Can I
song
answer, sir?
It's
yes,
KL Saigal, sir. Saigal, sir.
Sir,
yeah, the
3
first
songs are
song.
by Saigal, sir. 3 songs are by Saigal and 1 by Mukesh.
Okay, so the answer is first 3 songs. Okay, so let me repeat the answer of the faculty member who has recently answered. So the first 3 songs are sung by KL Sehgal Saab, and the last one is sung by
Okay,
Mukesh.
sir.
Anybody else? Yes, anybody else? Okay, so I suggest you, after this particular session, you just Google those songs. You will find that who are the singers. Although my question was not intended to ask the name of singer. My question was that how many different singers are used over here. So as somebody told that the first 3 songs are sung by KL Sehgal Saab and the last song is sung by Mukesh ji. Okay. But the correct answer is not this. The first 2 songs are sung by KL Sehgal Saab. The third song is sung by Mukesh ji, when he was imitating KL Sehgal Saab. So it was the initial time of Mukesh when he entered in the industry, and he was, very much admirer of KL Sehgal sahab, because at that time KL Sehgal was the only king of playback singing industry. Okay, so whether it was Rafi or it was Kishore or it was Mukesh, everyone was following KL Sehgal sahab at that moment of time. So the third song, which is Dil Jalta Hai To Jalne De, this is sung by Mukesh, but the tonal quality is, exactly similar to the tonal quality of KL Sehgal sahab. Okay, and the last song, which is of course sung by Mukesh, the answer was correct. Kisi ki muskurahaton pe ho nisar. So if you look at the third and fourth song, as I told you, the third song is also sung by Mukesh and the fourth song is also sung by Mukesh. But during the fourth song, Mukesh has developed his own identity. So I guess you are trying to understand what I'm trying to explain you. So up to initial period of Mukesh in the industry, he was following or he was imitating KL Sehgal sahab. But later on, he developed his own style. So what happened exactly at that moment of time, that some music director somehow convinced Mukesh to develop his own style, and Naushad ji was one of them. So he after lot of pursuance, he told Mukesh to develop his own style. So later on, Shankar Jaikishan ji came there, and these the last song, which is classical Mukesh song, you can identify by just looking at the name itself. So what I mean to say is that initially Mukesh was following Sehgal, but later on he developed his own style. Okay, so that is why he became famous. So what those music director told Mukesh at that time, that if you will be following the KL Sehgal, then industry will not accept you, because already we have one KL Sehgal in the industry. And you can compare this example with a garden. You don't want a garden to be having similar kind of flower or same color of flowers. If you have a garden, then of course your natural choice is to go for different kind of flowers and with different colors. So same was the case with the music industry. So those music directors were convinced Mukesh to develop his own style, and later what happened, it is history. Everybody knows that Mukesh became famous when he developed his own style. So mimicking to someone doesn't mean that you will not be able to outgrow out of that. Of course, whenever you will start your career in any direction, you will start following someone, but ultimately you will have to develop your own style of thinking. You have to develop your own thought process. So the correct answer was the song number 1 and 2 are sung by the same singer, that is KL Sehgal sahab, and the third and 4 were sung by Mukesh ji. And in fact, I would like to discuss one very interesting fact over here, that once this third song, that is Dil Jalta Hai To Jalne De, was played in front of KL Sehgal sahab. So KL Sehgal was astonished, and he suddenly asked to the person who played the song, that when did I sing this song? Okay, he was not able to recall that whether this song is sung by him or not. So much imitation was there in the voice of Mukesh and KL Sehgal sahab. So this is very important for every individual to come out, some sort of aura which you have created by following someone. We have to come out of that. So that is why I have one interesting fact is also there. When KL Sehgal listened the song, he eventually gifted his piano to Mukesh ji, because he was so much influenced by Mukesh that he can sing a song like him. Every person is having some sort of hunger of having followers. For example, if I take my example, I always want to get more and more followers, and same is the case for the celebrities you look around on the social media. Everybody wants to have so many or at least they want to increase the number of followers. So for KL Sehgal, it was right that Mukesh was following him, but as far as the context of Mukesh is concerned, it was not at all good for him. It was not at all good for him to remain long time in that industry. So similar example you can take from Swami Vivekananda. He was disciple of Swami Ramakrishna Paramhansa. So Paramhansa was the guru of Swamiji Vivekananda. So initially he started following Ramakrishna Paramhansa. He started to follow the practices of Ramakrishna Paramhansa, but later on he developed his own style, and that became history. You all know very well that Swamiji is now the Ramakrishna Paramhansa is known by the guru of Swami Vivekananda. Okay, so this kind of attitude is required in every individual. That of course you will follow someone, someone will have your role model initially, but that doesn't mean that you will long lastingly following the same. So here I would like to also narrate one story or a fun lesson from Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji. So Pandit Bhimsen Joshi, as all of you are aware of this fact that he is he was awarded by Bharat Ratna by the government of India for his classical singing or his contribution in the field of classical singing. So the Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji was a great admirer of Jaipur maestros. I hope some of you might be aware of the name of Jaipur maestros. So it was Mallikarjun Mansur ji and it was Kesarbhai Kerkar ji. So they were, Jaipur maestros. And Pandit Bhimsen Joshi was a deep admirer or a great admirer of Jaipur maestros. So what happened in one concert when Pandit ji was performing, Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji was performing. So what happened? Kesarbhai Kerkar was in the audience, and she was listening to Pandit Bhimsen Joshi. And when the concert was over, she came to him and she eventually, asked, she basically jocularly remarked on Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji that you have copied this content from my style. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain you here is that Pandit Bhimsen Joshi was admirer of Jaipur maestros. So that is why, initially he started following them. But later on, he developed his own style. So when, Kesarbhai Kerkar remarked on Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji, he never disputed about that. Even he, acknowledged her that, yes, I have learned this thing from you. So what Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji stated once stated once in one of his talk that every disciple, please listen carefully, every disciple should be an improvised version of his ustad or his master. Are you getting my point? Every disciple should be an improvised version of his master. So that is from the concept of follow no one but listen to everyone came into the existence. So ultimately one has to develop his own style So I hope this is very much clear to you. So what happened in that particular concert when Pandit ji was performing over there. So the sonorous tonal quality of Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji, that is popularly known as Shadja, was strikingly similar to the tonal quality of Kesarbhai Kerkar ji. So that is why she told him that you are copying this from my style. But ultimately he was not copying. He has developed his own style. But she felt it that he is copying from him. Okay, but he never disputed on that, and he acknowledged Kesarbhai Kerkar that yes, I have learned this style from you. So this is where the Indian culture came into the picture. So this is the sloka which is taken from Rig Veda. Okay, so this one line statement, if you count the number of words, a number of words in this particular sloka. So this is 6 character sloka over here. So let me pronunciate it for you. So this is Ano Bhadra Kritva Yantu Viswata. So its meaning is let noble thoughts come to us from every side. So this was the heritage of Indian education system or Indian socio-economic system that let the noble truths come to us from every side. So where the that is where the concept of learn from everyone or listen to everyone came into the existence. And I should not say listen to everyone, I must say learn from everyone. So I must correct myself. So one should have willingness to learn from everyone. So that is what our Indian culture is. So let the noble thoughts come to us from every side. Now, what is the advantage of getting noble thoughts from every side? That I'll discuss later on. Now, before leaving this particular topic or before moving towards the process of design thinking, it is very much important for me to discuss this concept of scientific temperament over here. So what is the meaning of scientific temperament? First, I'll discuss that. Then I'll explain with the example of these two figures, which is in front of you. So the meaning of scientific temperament is that you must question. Okay, there must be no passive or uncritical acceptance of what is being sensed, or that is very important. So whenever you are reading some research paper, it should not be like that you will accept that paper as it is. If no question is coming in your mind while reading that paper, it means it is very difficult for you ultimately to do new research in that particular area. So questions must come in your mind. So you should not have passive learning, you must have active learning. And it should not be like that. Suppose somebody who is very famous in his area is speaking on some particular topic, and you will accept it is. It should not be like that. And you must ask question to that. The second is that survey. This is very important in design thinking process and in literature reading also. So what is the meaning of survey? We must read the literature or observe or at least experiment. Okay, then explain. At least we should explain the hypothesis plus theory of that, and then we have to verify, and then we will share. So this is the process of scientific temperament, and one must follow this process of scientific temperament. Otherwise the process of design thinking will become very ridiculous to us. Okay, you are aware of the fact that those who are design thinkers are getting highest salary in the industries nowadays. Even Google, Amazon, all they are paying fat pay packages to the design thinkers. So what is most important for any design thinker? That he must have ability to question on something. Okay, so that is why I have listed down some of the point of scientific temperament over. Now, why I am highlighting the scientific temperament over here? So the first figure, if you look at this image over here, so he was Aristotle. Okay, so he was a great philosopher of his time. So what was the concept of Aristotle? What was the theory of Aristotle? So Aristotle said that women have lesser number of teeth than the men. So it was his belief. And as I told you that he was a great philosopher of his time. Okay, I'm talking about some centuries back. So he was a great philosopher of his time. So people started following him, that women will have lesser number of teeth than the men. Now what is interesting to note here is that this man Aristotle was having two wives. Okay, so he could have asked one of his wife to open the mouth, and he could have counted the teeth also, but he never did this. So it was his belief that women will have lesser number of teeth than the men. So people of that time started following them. Why I am quoting this point over here? Because at that time people were not having scientific temperament, at least the context which I'm talking about. Okay, so the context which I'm talking about, those people were not having scientific temperament. So nobody argued with this philosopher. Now, at the same time, look at the second image. This is very popular man. I hope that those who are from physics background and from electronics background, they might identify this man. So he is Shockley, and he is the famous scientist. He was the Nobel Prize winner for his particular discovery. So I'm not able to discuss the discovery over here. So why I have taken the image of Shockley over here. So, what was the belief of Shockley in his time? So this was the era of 1960s or 1970s or 1980s, when the scientific temperament among the people were very high. They started questioning to everyone. So even the Shockley was the Nobel Prize winner, but still, people raised a lot of questions in front of him. So what was his belief? Let me discuss that belief first, then I'll come to the subsequent story. So what happened? Shockley once stated that. Actually, this is based on some sort of racism remark. So he said that the person who is white by the skin is more intelligent the person who is black by his skin. Okay, so that this was the belief of Shockley at that particular time. But nobody, please listen this carefully. Nobody entertained this remark from the Shockley. Even he was the Nobel Prize winner. Whereas when Aristotle passed the comment, then women have lesser number of teeth than the men. Everybody convinced with him. Everybody was convinced with him because no scientific temperament was there. But in this particular time when Shockley was there, so scientific temperament of people were very high. So they started questioning. No, we are not agree with you. So this kind of racism related comment is not at all acceptable from a Nobel Prize winner. So even he was, a great intellectual of his own field, but the comment which he made on based on the race, was not at all acceptable to the people of that era. So that is why the scientific temperament should be, very high among the design thinkers, because in design thinking process, everything revolves around the term why, why. Okay, so you have to ask repeated questions, the why it is happening. If it is happening, then why it is happening. If it is so, then why it is so. So every time we have to look at the term why over there. So that is why the questions are very important in design thinking process. So even it is very good practice for any research scholar also, that he must ask question to himself whenever he will be reading any paper of some or whenever he will be reading some paper of very popular man. So now it is time for a cup of tea. So it is not something like that you will be offered tea over here. So what I mean to say is that, and again I would like to narrate something, then I'll move towards the process of design thinking after this particular slide. So here, this is a very popular story, a cup of tea story. Some of you might be aware of this story. So this story was related to a Zen master. And who was the Zen master? He was basically a Japanese philosopher or Japanese monk. Okay, so what happened one day, that one scholar was sitting in his lab, and he was getting very frustrated. So his colleagues asked him that why you are getting frustrated. So he told them that I'm getting frustration because I'm not getting any a new point out of the literature. Okay, or I'm not able to cope up with the literature which I'm going through as of now. Although he was a very good scholar, but he was a little bit frustrated as he was not able to get some new concept out of the literature which he has gone through. So his friends, I mean, those who were the friends of that particular scholar, they suggested him to meet with the Zen master and narrate all the problems to the Zen master. He may help to that particular scholar. So scholar did the same way. He went to the Zen master and he narrated his all the problems. So Zen master, listened the story of this scholar carefully, and then he took a teapot. Of course, tea was there in that particular pot, and he come up with a cup only. And you can see here, this is a teapot and this is a cup over here. So he come up with the teapot along with the cup, and he asked the scholar to pour the tea into the cup unless until he stops him. Okay, so unless until Zen master is not stopping that particular scholar has to pour the tea into the cup. So scholar was very surprised that why he is asking me to pour the tea into this cup. But since he has nothing to lose over there. So he started following the Zen master. So he started pouring the tea into the cup. Now, as he was pouring the tea into the cup, the level of tea was coming upward in this particular cup. You can see the second picture over here. So the level of tea is significantly high. So when the level of tea was or when the cup is about to be filled by the tea, so he started thinking that why he is not stopping me, why Zen master is not asking me to stop over here, because if I'll not stop over here, then the tea will pour around the table and it will mess up everything over there. So he was thinking in that particular manner, but Zen master did not stop him. And so since Zen master was not asking him to stop, so the rule was that the scholar has to pour the tea. So he eventually thought that okay, let me pour only. This tea was not bought with my money. The money will be the money of Zen master will be wasted. So I have nothing to lose over there. So he continued to pouring the tea over there. Now, when this process was continue to be repeated, then what happens? The tea from the cup came outside. You can see here that some tea is messed up over here, and it is coming out of this particular pot. So he was very worried. The scholar was very worried that the table, the glaze of the table will be destroyed. The carpet was also there. That carpet will also be destroyed. But he was continuously pouring the tea as the Zen master suggested him. So at the end, the pot became empty. Okay. So at the end, what happened? The pot became. Am I audible or not?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Audible, sir.
Okay. Okay. So at the end, the pot became empty. So what was the message out of that? You can see here that I have written something over here. Empty your cup. So this was the message to the scholar by the Zen master. Unless until you will not empty your cup, this tea will be messed up around the cup. Okay, this tea will messed up around the table. So this was his message to the scholar. So, scholar got the idea that why I was not able to concentrate in the research while doing my literature survey. Okay, so why have narrated this small story? Because this story gives a very deep message to us. And what is that message? Whenever you start something, you have to empty your mind, and you will have to remove the ideas which due to which you are already prejudiced. So you have to remove that sort of prejudice before moving into the process of design thinking. Otherwise, you will not be able to come up with the new solution. That is very important aspect of design thinking process. So this story tells us that before solving any problem of your real time, we have to first empty the cup. Otherwise, everything will be messed up over there. So student was not able to get, because he was not able to get rid of his previous thoughts. So that is why he was not able to concentrate on the studies or on the research. So now let us come to the Gurukula strategy, which is an ancient Indian concept. So this particular picture shown in front of you is nothing. This man who is sitting, who is standing over here is basically Dronacharya, and all other students or all other guys are his disciples. They were Pandavas and they were Kauravas. Okay. So why I am taking this example of Gurukul based system over here? What lesson we can learn from here? I'm not saying that we should start Gurukul sort of teaching nowadays, but what lesson we can learn from this particular image, or this particular story which is inherent in this particular picture. So what is the story? He was a faculty of so many students. See here, so many students are there. So he was the faculty of so many students. Still, he was able to train each and every student separately. That is what most important aspect. So the concept of design thinking is very much can be, very much clear by looking at the example of Dronacharya. So how yes, are you saying something? So how intelligently he handled all those students over there. So for example, Arjun was accomplished with the Dhanur Vidya. Likewise, Bhim was accomplished with, say, Gada. Likewise, all other students were having, different set of trainings given by Dronacharya. So we can learn this example from Guru Dronacharya, that how intelligently he handled this particular situation. So why I have taken this example, I'll quote it later on also, because this kind of problem is normally faced in the classrooms. Whenever a teacher teaches, a student get distracts. So what is the cause of their distraction? That can be analyzed with the help of design thinking. So what I'm telling you is that how efficiently design thinking was taken into the account by Dronacharya at that moment of time. So can we learn something from him? And that was actually the outcome-based education. Now let us have a look again. Let us have a look at this particular picture which is in front of you. This is an image of Bhaja Caves. Okay, so this is situated. This is located at 60 to 70 kilometers from the Pune. And this is very beautiful place. I suggest whenever you get chance, visit this place. So let me tell you what was the importance of this particular cave. So in this particular caves, separate rooms were there for different monks, and monks used to go there and they prayed there and they meditated over there, and then they returned back to their homes. So this was such an holy place where a lot of monks visited, and then they meditated and they enlightened at this particular place. So I have taken this place from some Google image itself. Now on the other side, if you look at the image of Lord Buddha, so Lord Buddha meditated at this place only, and after 49 days of his meditation, he got enlightenment. Okay, and when he got enlightenment, he came back to some place, and where 5 disciples came to him, and they got some sort of Guru Shiksha from Lord Buddha. So Lord Buddha gave them 4 noble truths at that point of time. So those 4 noble truths were experienced by Lord Buddha during the process of meditation at the Bhaja cave. So that is why this Bhaja cave is very important to be discussed over here. So what was the first noble truth of Lord Buddha? It was dukkha. Okay, so dukkha meaning in English is that it is suffering. So we must acknowledge suffering, and I'll discuss one by one each of the point later on. The second noble truth given by Lord Buddha was samudaya. Samudaya is nothing, it is community. The third noble truth given by Lord Buddha to his disciple was nirodha, that is cessation. And the last noble truth was the marga, that is the path. Now, why I'm discussing those 4 noble truths over here? Because those 4 noble truths are very much related to the concept of design thinking. Later on, we'll establish one-to-one correspondence between one-to-one correlation between them. So let us discuss all those noble truths one by one. Then I'll come to the process of design thinking, and I'll show you that how dukkha is similar to the empathy process, how the samudaya is similar to the process of analysis, how the nirodha is similar to the process of solving, and how the marga or the path is similar to the test or prototyping process of design thinking. Now let us discuss one by one those novel truths. So the first one was dukkha. So it can be it can be due to anything, but the most important aspect is that we have to acknowledge the suffering. Unless until you will not acknowledge the suffering, unless until you will not acknowledge the present situation which is happening with you, you will not be able to come out of that. Are you getting my point or not? Okay. So for example, suffering may be due to death, suffering may be due to the promotions, it may be due to the disease, it may be due to the failure of product or service, or it can be due to n number of reasons. But what is, most important aspect of design thinking process is that you have to acknowledge the suffering. You have to acknowledge the dukkha over there. So it means whatever situation is, persistent in the society, or whatever is situation, whatever is the problem associated with any particular customer, if I talk of, say, service or product, so we must first acknowledge that particular problem of customer. For example, suppose you are using some mobile phones nowadays, okay, and if this mobile phone is getting some sort of disturbance, and obviously you will contact to the customer care, or you will visit the service center. If they are not acknowledging you, if they are not going to listen you, then what will happen? They will not be able to improve their product quality or their service quality. So the first aspect of design thinking is the acknowledgement of the suffering. Okay, so here it was explained by Lord Buddha to his disciples that we must acknowledge the suffering. This was the first noble truth. Now let us come to the second noble truth, that is samudaya, or that is popularly known as community. Okay, so once the suffering is acknowledged, once you have acknowledged that yes, this sort of problem is there with me, then you will be able to analyze that. And how would you analyze? With the help of your community. So samudaya was the best way, the community was the best way to get rid of the dukkha, or the best way to get rid of the sufferings in one's life. Okay, for example, I have some problem, and if I'm not going to discuss with someone else, so in that case I'll not be able to come out of my sufferings, because if I want to get out of my suffering, it means I have to discuss my problems with someone. Okay, then and only some solutions will come out. So that is why the concept of samudaya is very important. The concept of community is very important, because once the community is there, you will be able to analyze the problem which you are having. Okay, so the root cause of suffering with the community. So you can discuss with your family, friends, colleagues. You can visit counselors. You can visit. You can meditate at your end, and you can talk to experts in that particular matter. So this beautiful image I have pasted over here. Again, I have taken from some Google image only. I don't know what is the exact reference of this image, but what exactly important here is that some waterfall is coming out over here. And if you want to know that from where this waterfall is coming, what you have to do, you have to reach at this top. Are you getting my point, what I'm trying to explain you? So if you want to get rid of any problem, then you have to first analyze what the problem is. Okay, and how would you analyze the problem? When you acknowledge that this problem persists. Are you getting my point? For example, let me quote this important useful example in front of you, that nowadays government employees are protesting for new pension schemes. They are saying that government should start old pension scheme, but still government is not at all considering their pleas. Okay, because right now they are not analyzing the situation, or right now they are not following the process of design thinking over there. So once they will follow the process of design thinking, definitely they will come out with some good idea, or I at least I believe that old pension scheme will be resumed shortly. Anyway, so this was just a joke in front of in between this talk. So samudaya is very, very important. Okay, so community will help you, community will assist you to get rid out of your problems. Now the third, which is very important aspect, is nirodha, which is known as cessation. Okay, so cessation of suffering with the help of community. Again, you will have to take help of the community in order to solve the problems which you have analyzed in the previous steps. Okay, so how your community will help in that manner? Suppose I am talking to the person X, he will let me know his suggestion. I will talking to person Y, he will let me know his suggestion. And likewise, n number of people I am talking, and n number of suggestions will come to me, and out of those n number of solution, I'll have to go with one particular solution which is most suitable to me. And if you discuss the same concept with the from the perspective of consumer, then what happens? Ultimately, first you have to find the problem associated with the customer. Okay, so what problems customers are facing right now before launching any service or any product? This kind of market research is being done by the companies. Now, how effectively they are doing that basically assures the success of their product. Okay, so that is a very important aspect. If you look at these caves once again, very important point I would like to highlight over here. So how ancient. So as I told you that these Baja caves were somewhere 22 or 2300 years old. So you see here that this lady is playing tabla, if you can see here. Okay, so she is playing a drum over here. So at that time, the drum and the concept of tabla was there. So similarly, if you look at the right hand side of the picture, here I am showing the image of Lord Indra, and he is sitting on his elephant Airavat. And Lord Indra was the Lord of heaven, and he was supposed to move everywhere in the heaven without any restriction. So what essentially I mean to explain here is that a lot of Indian concepts are already there. We have to refurnish that. We have to re-narrate that. The problem itself with the Indian system is that we don't have any narratives like other countries. For example, Germany has countries have their narratives, but the India is not having any narrative as of now. So when India will have its narrative, then those rich concepts will come into the existence. Otherwise, most of the literature is published by the Britishers, and nobody is sure about their authenticity. Anyways, so now let us come to the last noble truth, that is the fourth noble truth of Lord Buddha, and this noble truth is marga. So what I mean by marga is that you have to set a path. So after getting cessation, or after getting solution of some problem, now you have to set a path. You have to build a prototype for that. For any product or for any service, ultimately you have to build a prototype first. So in order to test that, so this marga is little bit similar to the test step or the prototyping step of design thinking process. So what is the meaning of marga according to Lord Buddha? Marga meaning is that set a path to mitigate the suffering. Okay, so ultimately you have to set the path to mitigate the suffering. So this is end of the suffering. You have to put an end of the suffering. So these are the path to the liberation or nirvana, as I discussed a few slides back, the Maslow hierarchy with you. So what was the concept of Maslow hierarchy? He was saying that at the end people will attain the self-actualization state, and Maslow and those concepts were already available in the Indian literature. Okay, we have to just furnish them, that from where Maslow or other people are taking, or other people are stealing those Indian concepts. Okay, so let me recapitulate what I have discussed so far. So the four noble truths are suffering, community, cessation, and path. That is dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, and marga. So dukkha means acknowledge the suffering. Samudaya means to find the root cause of the suffering. Nirodha means to put the end of suffering, and marga means to mitigate the suffering. Now with these words, let me move into the next part of the presentation, that is how useful is ancient Indian concept for future design thinking process. So this is what my title of talk is. So on the left hand side, the four noble truths are stated over here, and on the right hand side, the design thinking process is stated over here. So you see here that the suffering, community, cessation, and patha and marga, all those four processes are very much similar to empathize, analyze, solve, and test process. So when we are saying that one must acknowledge the suffering, it means one must empathize first. If it is related to some service or some product, so first process of design thinking is to empathize. So what is the meaning of empathize? You have to find out the problems are there or not. First you have to identify this. And for example, right now the government is considering that the new pension scheme is not a problem for the employees. So up to this point they don't have they have not considered this to be problematic for employees. But later on, I hope they will realize. The second process is to analyze. So once you have empathized, once you have acknowledged the suffering, once you have acknowledged the problem, then you will start analyzing the problem. And whenever you will analyze the problem, as I told you, that we have to take help of those why statements, WHY. Okay. So for every statement, you have to go into the detail that why it is happening. If it is happening, then why it is happening so every time you have to get the more abstraction level of this analysis process. The third step is the solution. Okay, so once the analysis is completed, you will come to the solution of some problem. So that is very much similar to the process of Nirodha and the cessation. Okay, so what was the meaning of Nirodha? To put an end of suffering. So that is what we are doing over here. So we are ultimately coming with some solution of some particular problem. It may be product or it may be service. And the last one is to test or prototyping, and that is very much related to the fourth noble truth of Lord Buddha, that is marga. Okay, so ultimately you have to set a path. You will come up with a final product for some specific problem. So this is how you can always correlate the ancient Indian concept with the process of design thinking. So I suggest everyone to solve the problems, design thinking problems based on our ancient Indian concepts. I have already stated the example of Dronacharya. If it is the problem related to the education industry, we can definitely sort out or we can definitely take some of the lessons from the styles of Dronacharya. So how he handled a lot of students simultaneously, and all the students were trained successfully at the end. So before taking deep dive into the process of case studies of design thinking, let me discuss what is the process of design thinking. It is a process. Please understand, it is a process. Okay, so design thinking is not a method, it is a process. So this image which is in front of you is of Nicholas Copernicus. Okay, so he was very popular astronaut of his time. So what theory he formulated? If you remember, he formulated that the center of the universe is not the earth, it is the sun. By that time, what was happening? Everybody was happening that the center of universe is basically earth. But he was the first man. He was the first man, at least in literature. Although ancient Indian concepts are present much before that. If you recall that, Chaupai of Hanuman Chalisa, Jug Sahastra Jojan Parvano. Okay, so that simple lines basically tells you the distance between sun and earth. So how rich we were in those knowledge regarding to astronomy. Anyway, so Nicholas Copernicus established this fact that the center of universe is not the earth, it is the sun. Okay, so before the arrival of this particular guy, it was believed in the European and the other countries that the center of universe is basically earth. Okay, but after this, a lot of research also came into this direction. I'm not going to discuss that research, but what is important here for us to note is that the design thinking is human-centric process. So Nicholas told that the center of universe is not the earth, it is the sun. But whenever you are taking any design thinking problem, then you have to put yourself into the shoes of the customer. That is very important. You have to consider yourself as customer, then you will start thinking towards the solution of that particular problem. So that is why it is generally said that design thinking is human centric design process. Okay, so this term design thinking was coined in recent past in 1960s or 1950s, but it was there since the inception in our Indian heritage. Now let us understand that the process of design thinking with simple cases. I know that you have gone through so many cases in last 4 days. Let me discuss some of the cases in brief. I'll not going to detail and discuss. This is just to brush up whatever you have learned in last those 4 or say 5 days. So design thinking process can be applied to any service or any product, as I'm repeatedly telling you that it can be applied to any product or any service industry. Okay, so problem can be socio-economic problem, it can be financial instrument, or it can be the problem related to the political background. Okay, if you look at most of you are aware of this name in the today's political scenario. Just let me recall the name of that guy. Yeah, PK. So I hope that all of you are aware of the name PK, Prashant Kishore. Okay, so what Prashant was the job of Prashant Kishore. He was basically following the process of design thinking. First he identified the problem, then he analyzed it, then he come up with some solutions, and some solutions were ended up with some product or with some final outcome, but at some time he also faced failure. Okay, but that is not we are going to discuss over here. What I mean to highlight here is that the design thinking process can be applied to any condition. So I must say that it is a kind of universal remedy. It is a kind of panacea that you can use everywhere. Okay, so for example, in metro cities, the car parking is a big issue nowadays. And for example, in the city which I am living right now, Surat, the parking issue is very much. So one can solve this problem based on the design thinking process. Likewise, the ventilator requirement in pandemic situation, a lot of work has been done in this direction, and I hope you have also come across some of the lectures on ventilators in last 4 or 5 days. So again, this was the consumer centric problem. In all the problems you will find that consumer is at the center. Okay, so whenever design thinker starts analyzing any problem, he or she will have to put himself or herself in the shoes of the customer. Then and then only you will be able to get with some good solutions. This is again a socio-economic problem, that providing healthy meal to the students in villages, okay, which are very far away from the cities, in order to attract the students. So what could be better strategy to attract the students in those the school in the villages. So all those kind of problems can be addressed by applying or by deploying the process of design thinking. Now let me discuss few cases over here. I'll quickly go through those cases over here. So this was the problem faced by some villagers in the West Bengal. So what happened over there? The water of this well was actually polluted, and villagers were bound to take water from this particular well, as there was no other source of potable water was there. So they were bound to take water from this particular well. So people were coming were traveling 4 to 5 kilometers, and they were coming to take water from this well, and even the water was polluted. So what the problem faced by the government of West Bengal, that people were people or the villagers of that particular village were getting sick due to that polluted water, and lot of deaths were reported due to this polluted water. So what the government did, they deployed, or they built a tanker of clean water over there. So this was very good move by the government of West Bengal of that particular time. So they somehow managed to provide fresh water or fresh potable water to the villagers. But still, the reports were saying that villagers were dying due to the polluted water. So what could be the reason behind this? So when they started to analyze the problem based on the design thinking process, then what happened? So I'll discuss what happened, what kind of problems they observed, that why people were still dying due to the polluted water, even they have provided them fresh water near that particular well only. Okay, so later on, when they realized, when they came to know that whatever facility they have provided to the villagers, or villagers are basically end users, so I can say they are customers of the government. Okay, so whatever facility they have provided to their customer, they are not benefited by that particular facility. So the money of government is also wasting, and the health issues of poor villagers are also at the stake. So when they they applied the design thinking process with the help of design thinkers, so finally they come up with some reasons. So what is the process of empathy over here? What is the process of suffering? If I correlate this example with the noble truths of Lord Buddha. So here, if you consider this, empathize process, or the process of empathy, so this is very much similar to the process of suffering. So you have to acknowledge the suffering. So government try to identify what are the sufferings over there, why people are still dying due to the polluted water. So they came across, lot of problems over there. So what were the problems? Some of them I have listed over here. So they first established that yes, suffering is there, some problem is there, people are getting dying due to the polluted water. So when they empathize, they came to know how the process of empathy takes place. So they conducted user interviews, they interacted with the people of villages, what they try to know the problems of the villages, why they are not taking the water from the newly established well. Actually, what happened at that particular well, that at that particular village, that people were not taking water from this fresh water tank. So that is why they were continuously dying. So when government analyzed that why they are not taking water from the tank which they have, the facility which they have provided to the villager, then they conducted interview in order to identify their problem. They created some user persona based on demographic, income, family. So they got to know that villagers are not at all taking water. Most of the villagers are not taking water from that newly established water tank. And then some problems were analyzed based on that. So the second aspect was the identification of the problem. So let us consider now the process of define and analyze over here. So when they interviewed with the villagers, and they contacted with the villagers, then they got to know that the roads near to that particular fresh water tank was not at all good. The roads were very poor, so villagers were not able to take water from that particular new tank which was established by the government. Okay, so that was the first problem which they have identified. Likewise, the second problem, after empathize, they got to know that since in village, what happens, men go at service, say for farming. So women's or lady villagers had to carry the water from that particular tank, and the distance of their village from that particular fresh water tank was very far away. So those lady villagers were not able to carry more weight were not able to carry more weight of water to their home. So that is why they were not taking water from the fresh water tank. The third problem which they identify was that the people of that particular village were belonging to the low income group, and the water supply facility provided by the government was at certain cost. They had to pay actually 4 or 5 rupees per liter. So some of the villagers were not able to pay that much amount of money in order to get sufficient amount of water. So the number three problem, they identified this, and at the end the requirement of the quantity of water. So what was the rule in that particular water tank, that everyone has to take certain amount of water whether they require or not. Okay, for example, 20 liters water everyone has to carry. So villagers were facing problem. They were not able to carry 20 liters of water all along 4 to 5 kilometers. Okay, so the problems were analyzed by the design thinkers, and based on that, they suggested some solutions to the government, and later on government established free water facility to all the villagers, and the roads were also made up from village to that particular safety potable water, fresh water tank. So this is how the problem can be analyzed based on the design thinking process. Now this is very classical problem. You might have come across in your previous sessions also. So this is a problem related to incubator. This is a recent innovation in the field in this direction. So what is this innovation? You can see here that I have shown an image where a lot of snowfall is happening over here. Lot of icing you will find over here. Okay, so what kind of problem problems are faced of this particular city or this particular village, that whenever baby borns over there. So newborn babies, the death rate of newborn babies were very high in this particular area, due to the heavy snowfall or due to heavy snowfall or heavy ice fall over there. So the death rate was very high among the newly born babies. Okay, so this was the problem actually, and why the death rate were high, because the newborn babies were suffering from this particular disease which is known as hypothermia. So what is the meaning of hypothermia? It is normally it is opposite to the problem hyperthermia. So in hyperthermia the temperature of body rises, okay, whereas in the case of hypothermia the temperature of body decreases, and it reaches to the freezing point in certain cases. So that is why more death rates were reported in this particular area where lot of snow fall is happening. So this problem was taken up by Stanford University, and they applied the process of design thinking in order to solve the problem. So they empathized, they defined, and then they ideated the process. Okay, so this empathy, define, and ideate, these processes are basically similar to what we have discussed, suffering, and then after suffering, I'm sorry. So these are similar to the process which we have discussed earlier. I mean, first you acknowledge the suffering, then you will get then you will analyze that, and then after analyzing that you will solve the problem, and after solving the problem you will come up with some prototyping. So based on the design thinking process, Stanford University solved this problem. So the first process involved empathy itself. But what is the empathy? The empathy was to acknowledge the problem. So what was the problem? That newly born babies were dying in that particular area due to the heavy snowfall. Okay, so due to heavy snowfall, hypothermia was very common among the newly born babies. So that was the suffering. Okay, so you have to acknowledge the suffering first. So after acknowledging acknowledge the suffering, or after completing the empathize, you have to analyze the process. I'm sorry. You have to analyze the process. So when they start, analyzing the process, then the process of analyzing. What is the process of analyzing? Right. So you will have to consider all the aspects before solving any problem. So whether you will provide uh, uh, free offering to them, or electricity was not there in some of the area of that particular city or that particular village, the incubator which you are going to design for newly born baby should be lightweight, but otherwise it will be very difficult to carry, or it should be portable, so that they can keep their babies inside the incubator and they can save their lives. If you look at the previous image which I have shown over here, so this was the incubator, and this small baby is sleeping in this incubator, and this is how they were able to save so many lives in the areas where a lot of snowfall takes place. So the analysis of this particular problem were taken into the consideration, and based on these parameters, or much more parameters they have considered, I have taken a few of them only. So after the analysis, they started to they come up with some of the solutions. So see, three solutions they come up with. So this was the first prototype they suggested, this was the second prototype, this was the third prototype, because whenever you are suggesting any solutions, you will have to look at the feasibility also. I mean, which kind of material you are using for designing those incubators, how much energy consumption will be there in those kind of incubators, because those are battery operated, or you will have to provide some external source of power to them. So all those, after analyzing all those problems, or all those tenets of designing, they come up with these three prototypes. And at the end, the third prototype was selected. And you can see this image over here. I have taken this image from some source. So this was the final product suggested by them. And uh, this product was able to save, so many lives in that particular village. So what I essentially, mean to say here is that we should always follow the process of design thinking. It will definitely give you some good results. If without analyzing, or without without following the process of design thinking, if you are coming up with solutions, so that is not going to work at all in longer run. For example, I discussed that West Bengal government provided a fresh water tank, but still the deaths were reported due to the polluted water. Yeah, so this is very good example. So I must discuss this example with you all, because most of the audience over here belongs to the teaching fraternity. So that is why I have taken this example over here. So this is a problem associated with the teacher and the student only, and how we can address this kind of problem with the concept of design thinking, that I'll discuss in a few slides. So here what is happening, if you look at these two kids, I mean those are encircled in this red circle. Okay, so these are distracted. So teacher is teaching something, but they are not paying attention whatever he is teaching. So the problem here is that the child or the kid is distracted. Are you getting my point or not? So first, in design thinking process, we have to acknowledge the suffering. So what is the suffering here? That the child is distracted. So this is the suffering. This is the problem, because this kid is my customer. This is my end user. For any education industry, students are their end customers, and we have to provide the best services to them. So if you look at these two kids, they are not paying attention in the class. So the reasons for not paying attention in the class was taken into the consideration, and some solution based on the design thinking problem we will discuss over here. Okay, so since I am putting only one picture over here, I believe that in most of the classes these two kids are distracted. It doesn't mean that other kids are not distracted, but in most of the classes, these two kids are found to be distracted. So let us try to find out the reason behind. And in design thinking problem, as I told you, that it is always human-centric problem. So you have to put yourself in the shoes of the customer. So you have to put yourself at the place of this student. So here the conflict is between the teacher and the student. So what is that conflict? teacher is doing his job perfectly, he's teaching the student, and rest of the students are paying attention, but these two students are not paying attention. It doesn't, it means the teacher is doing his job perfectly. So then why, if teacher is doing his job perfectly, then why these students are distracted? Okay, so if students are distracted, it means teacher is not doing his job perfectly. So everything is correlated over here. So let us try to address this problem based on the design thinking process. But here the conflict is in between the teacher and the student, and that is for the sure. So let us try to since we have empathized it, we have already acknowledged the suffering that that students are distracted and teacher is teaching. So the problem is now known to us. Are you getting my point or not? Problem is now known to us. Teacher is teaching, but the students are distracted. So let us try to analyze the problem after empathizing it. So try to find out the cause of distraction. N number of reasons could be there. So I have listed only I have listed only few reasons over here. Now, what is most important aspect in design thinking process is this conflict of interest. Always there will be conflict of interest between the end user and the service provider. Okay, always there will be conflict of interest. So how will you address those conflict of interest? That is the basically job of design thinkers. Or so let us see here. I have listed here that the pace of teacher is very fast. So it was one of the reasons. Whenever you will be analyzing this particular situation, that why kids are distracted, then you will have to ask a lot of questions to the community. Okay, when it comes to community, so how the community is formed, you will have to ask question to teacher, you will have to ask question to students, you will have to ask question to distracted students, you will have to ask question to students, those who are paying attention, so and their parents and their surroundings. So community will help you in order to analyze the problem. So I have listed a few points over here. So at the end, suppose I have identified that the pace of teacher is fast. Don't say me that I am also too fast right now. Okay, so because I have to complete everything within the stipulated period of time, and this is the irony of our education system, that we have to cover and everything. We should not follow this approach. I'm sorry for that. So the pace of teacher is very fast. So this was the problem identified. Okay, so I'll try to keep my pace slow now onwards. So when the cause of distraction was considered, so one fact came into the picture, that the pace of teacher is fast. Now again, ask yourself that why the pace of teacher is fast? Because he has to cover lots of syllabus. Now, why he has to cover lots of syllabus? There could be a number of reasons. Now he has been given a small number of classes to cover that particular content, or the classes were started late, as it is happening in the pandemic situation, or some sort of pressure of management is there that you have to complete syllabus, this much amount of syllabus up to this much period of time. Okay, so there could be a number of reasons over there, but I have listed only one reason, that the teacher of the pace of teacher was very fast, since I am addressing the problem related to a primary school teacher. Okay, so that is why this region seems to be very important to me. So because those are small kids, their learning rate is not very high. So what is happening here? If we look at this graph, this is learning retention versus the pace of teacher. So I have taken only two options. Either the learning rate is slow or the learning rate is very high. Either the pace of teacher is slow or the pace of teacher is very high. Okay, so if you look at this graph is nothing. This is a straight line, and it is very much clear to you. If I'll speak in very fast way, definitely you will not be able to retain whatever I am speaking. But at the same time, if I am speaking everything in relaxed way, you will be able to retain each and everything. So again, there is a conflict. Okay, if teacher starts teaching in fast way, then the problem is there, the student will get distracted. But if teacher start teaching in slow mode, okay, or in relaxed mode, then what happens? He will not be able to cover the syllabus. So always there is a conflict of interest, and whenever there is a conflict of interest, design thinking will be a remedy for that. So you should analyze the problems with the help of design thinking process only. Okay, so since we have understood this, graph, that learning retention will be very high if and only if teacher is slow. I mean, the speed of teacher is slow in covering the syllabus. And for example, I have been given 2 hours to cover certain portion. Okay, and suppose I have decided to cover lot many things in this 2 hours, so I'll not be able to cover properly, or at least I'll be doing only slideshow kind of presentation over there. So what is my motto over here? That whatever I am speaking here should be retained by the audience who are sitting over there. Okay, so that should be the motive of a teacher. Okay, but at the same time, a teacher is also bound to complete the syllabus. Are you getting my point? So now let us see how we can analyze this whole process. So it is the pace of teacher. So pace of teacher can be fast, it can be slow. If it is fast, then what are the possibilities? The student retention is low, or syllabus will be covered. If the pace is fast, then syllabus will be definitely covered. Now look at the second aspect. When the pace of teacher is slow, the student retention will be very high. That is good for the student. Now, if you are only the customer centric, it will be very good. But at the same time, you will not be able to cover the whole syllabus. Okay, so out of this much amount of scenario which I have created in front of you, these are my desired result, that I'll have to cover the syllabus. At the same time, I want the retention of a student should be very high. So let us see what we can do, what kind of solutions you can offer to this student or to this teacher. So may I know from your side? I have discussed the problem with you, and I have already discussed you and I have already told you that these are the desired result. Now I'm just asking the final solutions from your side. So we have analyzed everything, and based on this analysis, we have observed that if this condition is there, then the syllabus will be covered and the student retention will be very high. So this is my desired result. Okay, so how can I get those desired result? Please let me know this.
Session
Okay, I'll
should be
discuss.
meticulously planned, sir.
Yes, sir, would you please repeat?
Sessions should be meticulously planned. So before
Okay.
delivery of the sessions, so session should be meticulously planned to cover the syllabus as well as to draw the attention of the students.
Right, but how will you handle the pressure that you have to cover the syllabus?
Yeah, that is why planning is required. Advanced planning is
So we
required
can
before delivery.
we
Yeah,
can
so,
combine a couple of topics which are related and teach together.
Yes. I agree. I agree with your solutions. Both the solutions are correct.
That is one way, and another way is making the students to involve more, like
Yes,
after
correct.
explaining the
So
task.
this is,
Yeah.
yes, this is what the result I just wanted to know. This is the solution which I just wanted to listen. And you have to make the involvement of the student. So how would you make the involvement of a student? And that is where, the concept of that NBA came into the picture, this outcome-based education. Okay.
Yes.
So yes, you are saying something?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so that is where the concept of outcome-based education came into the picture. You have to involve your student in the class. So how you will involve the student in the class? You can have, n number of ways, and this has to be decided by the individual teacher only. It should not be, set some set rules. It should not be like that, because every individual has his or her own style of handling the class. So I leave it an exercise to you, that you try to make your students more involved in the student. But some of the solutions as suggested in the literature, you will also find that flipped classroom sort of teaching is employed over there. So in that case, what happens? You will allow students to speak on some particular, or you will allow, you will encourage students to prepare some particular topic and explain to all other students. So that will basically encourage, so many qualities in the encourage so many qualities in the student, or that will move towards the wholesome development of the student. So flipped classroom is one such good solutions. Anyways, so thank you very much for that nice interaction. So here I would like to introduce this concept of inventive principle. If you look at this man, okay, so this is popularly known as TIPS in short. So this is theory of inventive problem solving. So people started, abbreviated it saying TIPS. So whenever you want, in the stock market, if you want to do something, you want to get some tips from someone. So that tip is nothing, that is basically theory of inventive problem solving, because the person who is providing you tip has done a lot of market research. Okay, so based on that, he is providing you tips. So tips is nothing. Tips is, the meaning of tips is, it is a theory of inventive problem solving. So we have to, solve any problem based on inventive principle. So that is where the concept of those flipped classroom came into the picture, and outcome based education came into the picture. You have to provide more and more opportunity to the student, so that he will not be distracted, and he will try to remain engaged in your class. So this is one more such problem. Those who are from mechanical background are more clear about that. Let me discuss first the problem, and then we'll discuss the solutions based on the principle of aerodynamics. So here two images are shown in front of you, and in both the images, what is happening? The aircraft is basically landing. So what is the conflict of interest over here? First, we have to identify this. So here, conflict of interest is that whenever any spacecraft, whenever any spacecraft or any aircraft lands, so it must be land at very high speed, and it should be there. Otherwise, some sort of accident will definitely take place. So whenever it lands, it should land at very high speed. Okay, ऐसा नहीं होता है कि वो आके तुरंत एक जगह रुक गया. So it has to land at very high speed. The second problem at the same time, what is the conflict over here? That the tires which are used over here, you can see here, I can show you with my laser pointer. So if you look at the tire over here, and a lot of smoke is there, a lot of puff is there when the aircraft is landing. Okay, so why it is there? Because it is landing at very high speed. But at the same time, what happens? There is a problem of tire wear. You all are aware of this problem, that in most of the aircraft, they have to very frequently replace those tires. Okay, and that is a big problem among the in the industry. And however, some of the solutions have already came into the picture. I mean, they have improved the quality of tires, they have improved the quality of materials, but let us try to analyze in our own way. Okay, so here I guess the conflict is clear to you, that whenever it lands, speed must be very high, and whenever it lands, at the same time, the tire wear will be very. Okay, so what I want, wheels to be slow, at the same time aircraft to be very fast, in order to get safe landing of the aircraft. Now, what kind of solutions are there, as per the aerodynamics of this particular domain? Now you may discuss any idea in your mind. One such solution, let me discuss with you. I have come across when this problem was discussed in the group of a student. Then somebody suggested that why don't we make the road of the same rubber material? Okay, here the tires are made up of some rubber kind of material, of course, with some compositions. Okay, so the one solution came into the mind of a student, that why can't we make the road of why can't we make this road rubberized? I mean, road should be made up of rubber material, but that this is not a practical solution. Now, one such solution is there, that whenever aircraft is landing, the wheels should also start moving at the same speed. Whenever aircraft is landing, the wheel should also move at the same speed. For example, if aircraft is landing, and at the time of landing, say speed is 200 kilometer, okay, to 200 kilometer per hour. So at the same time, what 200 kilometer per second. So at the same time, what I am saying that the I'm sorry, it is 200 kilometer per hour. Okay, so whenever aircraft is landing, let us suppose a speed is say 200 kilometer per hour. So your wheel should also rotate at the same speed. So the relative speed between aircraft and the wheel will be zero, and that will you know that will basically improve the life of your tire, because tire wear will not be there in that case. And so such kind of aerodynamic based solutions were also came into the picture. If some of the solutions you have in your mind, you may also discuss with me. But this problem is already solved. I'm just telling you because such kind of problems, if addressed with the process of design thinking, will give you good result. That is why I am taking those normal problems which have already been solved, but still, we are facing problems. So we can definitely address those problems with the design thinking. Now, this is a very classical example. You might have come across this example in your life recently also. So this was the problem, faced by this company who manufactured this chocolate, Hershey. Okay, so what is the problem of the manufacturer? That they have to transport these chocolates to the hot places. Are you getting my point? They have to transport these chocolates to the hot places. Now you know very well that whenever you want to buy any chocolate, it should remain in its solidified state, and it should not be melted. And you will not purchase that chocolate which is melted. So the problem faced by this company Hershey is that, and they openly floated this problem among the research community of the design thinkers, that provide us some good solutions so that we can do better packaging and do better transportation of the chocolates. So what was the conflict over there? The conflict was in between the chocolate and environment. Similar to the previous case, the conflict was between the speed of aircraft and the speed of wheels. So here the conflict is in between the chocolate and the environment. So you have to transport these chocolates to the hot areas, but the problem is that those chocolates will melt. Okay, so you can certainly do the brainstorming, and you can provide your solution to this company, because still they are asking for some solutions. Yeah, so before leaving this talk, I have taken almost, so I'm sorry for that. You are bearing with me for last 1.5 hours. So let me discuss quickly this one slide, because we all are in this teaching fraternity. So this inexperienced teacher's perspective is very important for us to note, and how the process of design thinking will help you to come out of that. So here I have represented 3 approaches of teaching the same concept, that is 2 + 2 = 4. So suppose teacher A is coming in the class and he is telling a student that 2 + 2 = 4. Now teacher B teacher, say second teacher is coming in the class and he is telling that 2 + 2 = 4. But this 2 means you can take these 2 matchsticks, and you can take 2 matchsticks, and then you add all those matchsticks. So the total count will be 4. So this is the one approach of explaining 2 + 2 = 4. And the third approach, which is very effective approach as far as the primary school teaching is concerned, although we are not in that profession, we all are in higher education, but still the storytelling will help you to explain abstruse concept in lucid manner. So what is approach 3? You will be telling some sort of a story, that how 2 + 2 can become 4. So you can narrate a story at your own, and then try to analyze that how many students were distracted in your class when you explained with this approach, when you explained with this approach, and when you explained with the storytelling approach. And this tactics, or this practice, we have to adopt all the faculty members, or all those professionals who are in this noble profession of teaching. So we have to adopt the design thinking process to address to serve the education community in more better way. So at the end, I will try to suggest you all one thing, that never try to cover everything. Okay, this is very important in the class. As I was telling you, that for primary student, it may be necessary for you to cover most of the syllabus, but when you are in the higher education, it is not mandatory for you to cover everything. So never try to cover everything. It is not like that whatever you have prepared you have to vomit out in the class. Okay, it is not like that. So try to explain the important concept to the students, so that they will be able to learn all the related concepts out of that. So these are the important references I have used in order to make this presentation, and I sincerely acknowledge all those images you are looking over here, Professor Karmalkar, Professor Bala, and Professor Suresh Kumar of IIT Madras. All the faculty members are from IIT Madras, and they have nicely explained the concept which I have discussed in brief over here. You may also go through this book of design thinking primer by Professor Bala himself from IIT Madras. So this is all about from my side. If you have anything to ask, or if you have anything to complain regarding my presentation, now the forum is open for you. Because your
Participants,
feedback.
yes, sir. The session is open for queries now. Participant can discuss the things. It was awesome session, sir. Yeah, nobody can complain. I can assure you this.
Thank you, miss. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you.
And any participant want to discuss anything?
Yeah. I'm Dr. Kishore Kumar from Nalsar University of Law, Hyderabad.
Yes, sir.
So, Abhishekar, it was very wonderful session. For last 1 hour 45 minutes, I was listening to it continuously without any distraction.
Thank you,
Actually,
sir.
I wanted to ask you a question, but that is also covered in the presentation. So, how to apply design thinking in educational institutions, and how to apply it to the students and faculty members. So, everywhere we can apply this concept, no? So, I
Yes,
wanted to ask that question, but that is also covered. And the unique thing in your presentation
But
is the examples that you have taken. Okay, ancient concepts that you have taken for the presentation. It is more apt to the FDP, and it is more apt to the target audience also. As a teachers, even as a teacher, I have learned something from you, that how to even draw the attention of the target audience, and so that also we can apply to our students to engage them properly. So really, it was so nice and informative,
thank you, sir.
wonderful, and
Thank you
it
very
is
much, sir.
the
Thank you.
perspective that you have taken. Really, total
Sir,
the
your
presentation.
word of appreciation means a lot to me.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Sir,
Sure. From bottom of my
sir,
heart, I'm appreciating. Why? Because since beginning, the first slide that what you have presented or shown to us, since beginning, I was listening to your presentation. The examples that you have taken, right from the songs to the ancient concepts, and even scientific temperament, and everything is even application oriented. That is what required in a presentation. Really, from the bottom of my heart, I am appreciating, and I thank you very much for taking that wonderful session.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
It's
I
my
am
pleasure.
appreciating even organizers also for arranging such a beautiful presentation by you, sir.
yeah.
Thank
Uh,
you, sir.
Sir, actually, I also second the opinions given by Professor Kishore Kumar. I had a question in your that cup of tea, that particular slide. You said that we should not carry prejudices, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Sir, prejudices are normally based on our previous experiences.
Yes, yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
So actually, previous experiences teach us. Always, it is said that you should know history so that you don't make similar mistakes again.
Right, right, right.
So what my solution that student should have done is that before spilling it, he should have drunk some part of the tea so that it doesn't spill at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. That is always possible.
Yeah. So, in a sense, always we can't say that prejudices are not to be carried.
No, actually,
Valid prejudices should be
yeah,
there. That's
I
what I
agree.
want.
I agree with you, ma'am. I agree with you. My point is that whenever we are trying to solve any problem based on the design thinking process, so if you are prejudiced from some previous concept, then you will not be able to come out with some new idea. Of course, we have to take care of some set of rules whenever we'll be solving something. Now, for example, Newton's law we have to always
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
based on Newton's law, we have to develop some new theories also.
Yeah.
You are
Sir,
correct.
yeah, sir, actually, I have written this. It was a design thinking made simple kind of a session where every aspect was actually addressed with very good illustrations.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
madam.
much.
Thank you, madam.
Absolutely a cracker session, I would say.
Thank you.
Ma'am, before working at Surat, sir was working at Engineering College Bikaner, and he was not one of the best. He was a best teacher in the institute. We are missing you, Abhishek sir. And this session was awesome. And this kind of compliments we are getting first time in last 5 days. So it
Thank you,
was
madam. Thank you.
in the comment in chat box also there is nice session, thank you, nice session, thank you kind of comments are coming from participants, sir. So thanks for being there.
Madam,
Thanks for
special thanks to you all for trusting on me and providing opportunity
well,
me to
you
talk on this
always
particular topic.
keeps of faith on you us, and
Thank you.
we are very thankful to you for accepting our invitation. And thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We seek your cooperation in future also, as we
Sure.
we have faith and we know that you will always be there for us, but
Sir,
still.
can I have your email ID, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'll write in the chat box.
Yeah.
Okay, Abhishek sir, thank you very much. And
Thank you, madam.
participants are requested to join back at 2:15. We'll be having valedictory at 4, and the quiz link will be shared in the chat box at the time of valediction. So all are requested to be there at in valediction at 4 o'clock. And next session will start at 2:15 p.m. So all are requested to join back at 2:15. Thank you, Abhishek sir. Thank you,
Thank
dear
you, madam. Thank you very
participants.
much. I have shared my email ID over here.
Have a good day, sir. Have a good day to all participants. Although half of the day is been passed, but have a nice day.